I quietly left when found out my wife's affair after 3.5 years of marriage. A year later, my ghosted ex-wife tracked me down. After learning of my wife's adultery, I moved to the hills. I'm not sure why I'm writing this, but hopefully it will be useful to someone now that the situation has passed and I've moved on. After 3.5 years of marriage, I discovered my wife's affair in February 2018. I worked a contract job that periodically required extensive travel but also allowed me to work from home when I returned. My wife worked as a director for a technical sales company, which was highly lucrative. Although things had gotten a little strained as she worked longer and longer hours and I traveled for work, we still had what I would consider a fairly good marriage. Background: 5 years ago, during a cookout thrown by a mutual acquaintance, I met my now ex-wife. We hit it off right away once we started conversing. To be honest, I thought being with a lady who was both attractive and articulate was a great advantage. She seemed to like my rough around the edges personality. After a few weeks of dating, we were charmed with each other. When we met at each other's apartments, the clothing just flew off. After 18 months of dating, we married and moved into a spacious apartment while saving for a down payment on a house. Things began to shift after the first 3 years of marriage. Even though I still had affection for her, I noticed that she argued over minor issues. When I mentioned all the late hours and increasingly frequent work outings, she became enraged. Since she was climbing up the corporate ladder, she would explain that it was a necessary component of paying the dues, or so she thought. She told me that since I was also gone for weeks at a time, I had no right to challenge her. In truth, I had only been taking holidays for 3 or 4 days every 5 weeks, so I convinced her that I could easily reduce my trip time. There was no conclusion to these exceedingly circular arguments. Looking back, I realize I was completely oblivious that my wife was having an affair. Aside from our diminishing sexual relationship and her consistent late work hours, I would never have guessed anything. I just figured she was exhausted from her job. But being rejected so frequently when I attempted to initiate a sexual relationship had taken a toll on my ego. Although she had a business phone and may have been using it, I did not see the covert texting that I had read about in other publications. She used our spare bedroom as a home office and spent a lot of time in it. Kathy began returning home after work in September 2017 and instead spent the evening at a work engagement. This rose from 1 night per week to more than 3 evenings each week. Although I'm not inherently envious, she would surely be seen by others, and I'm aware that she would have to avoid some of the males at her workplace. Despite working with more male CEOs than female CEOs, she gave the impression that she was solely interested in her profession. The first time I believe she was cheating was a month before D-Day. She had stopped at the store before returning home. I was asked to help her with the food shopping. As I was getting some belongings from the back seat, I noticed something pink glinting just beneath the front passenger seat of her car. It was my wife's bra. She preferred ones from a specific clothes store, so I knew they were hers. Looking back, I see the bra was a warning sign. When she's feeling particularly amorous, she always takes off her bra first, from underneath her clothes. I'm not sure why, but watching this made me sick to my stomach immediately. I didn't understand why her bra was under the seat. I said nothing more. My heart must have been pounding so hard that I almost passed out, because when I returned the bags to the kitchen, Kathy inquired how I was feeling and claimed I looked like I had seen a ghost. I just ignored her remark. It took everything I had to hide my feelings, but I tried not to appear offended or fooled. I decided to find out if she was seeing anyone that night and the next day. I began to evaluate all of the signals I could have missed. Aside from the bra, I had no evidence. She works in a downtown office building, and we live in a relatively large city. I decided to temporarily put the affair out of my mind and explore giving her more of my time. One Friday evening after work, I prepared a delicious lunch and set the table with elegant plates, silverware, and candles. I bought a bouquet of flowers and a wonderful bottle of wine. When she arrived as normal after work, I showed her the supper and everything I had prepared. She apologized and said she was sorry, but she needed to go to a neighborhood hangout to meet up with her colleagues. She said she needed to take a shower first, but she could have a quick snack with me before leaving. I guess I fell completely silent because my insides turned on me. I won't go into detail about how angry I was at the time, but I'd had enough. I took my work cell phone and dumped it in her back seat while she was showering. I had considered using my own phone to find her. I then went into the kitchen and tossed away the food and flowers. She got ready after showering and looked lovely as usual. "All right, let's eat," she replied. "Never mind, go out with your friends," I told her. She inquired whether I was angry after giving me a strange expression. "I'm sad that you never want to do anything with me," I told you. She became enraged and sarcastically remarked on my short temper, ordering me to quit acting like a child. I said, "Foolish me," as I stood there, allowing everything to sink in. For once, I thought we should spend the evening together. She merely smiled and stormed away. When she left, I grabbed out my second phone and started following my work phone. I caught her stopping about 20 minutes away, at the bar where she frequently meets with her coworkers. I decided to go find her car. Indeed, it was in the bar's parking lot. I waited to see if I could spot her in my car across the street. I felt radically different, like a stalker, but I told myself that I needed to alleviate my anxiety about her location. I saw her leaving the bar with a man approximately an hour after I arrived. He looked like an executive from her company. He grabbed her, dragged her closer, and planted a kiss on her lips. My entire body was numb, and my gut began to clench up. They went to a different vehicle and hopped into it together. When their car pulled away, I attempted to catch up with them. They drove to a hotel about 10 minutes away. As I came to a halt on the street beside the hotel, I noticed them exiting, holding hands, and entering. I had seen enough. I felt ridiculous. I started banging the steering wheel with my fist. That was it. Something went completely blank inside of me. I'm not sure if I had an out-of-body experience or blacked out, but as I recovered, I wanted a drink. At this point, my life took an unexpected turn. I simply started driving out of town, reliving everything I'd just seen. As much as I hate to admit it, I was crying because I was angry. I found a charming little tavern on the outskirts of town, perhaps 30 miles distant, and stopped in. I ordered a drink while sitting at the bar. The bartender, a lady, remarked I looked like someone had taken the wind out of my sails, thus I guess I looked like death had come early. I replied, half smiling. "You could say that?" A man sat down beside me and started a conversation. Even though I didn't feel like conversing, something about this guy made me feel comfortable. We had a talk, and my wife's adultery came up. I told her all I wanted was to be away from her and forget about her. "You are not alone, buddy," he said, giving me a back pat and a short gaze. "I went through that a few years ago. I believe there is a reason why these things occur. I guarantee you that your life can now take both positive and terrible turns. At this point, everything is up to you." His words, for some reason, startled me out of my funk. Even though I was aware of my anguish, I've always been able to think clearly, and he was entirely correct. We identified ourselves. Ray was his name. I appreciated his down-to-earth attitude, despite the fact that he was more of a country guy. "When are you going to move out?" he said. I suppose I never considered looking that far ahead. I had a fight-or-flight reflex going on, and I knew I didn't want to be around this woman anymore. "I have an idea and I feel very sympathetic to your situation," Ray informed you. "When the time comes, I have a mobile trailer on my property in case you need to go. It may take some tweaking and isn't really good. Why don't you come and see if you can envision yourself short living in anything like that? I'll give you a great deal on it, at the very least. You could even park it on a beautiful piece of land I own. I would be grateful if you could watch it for me. It may be useful to escape your situation, just a thought." I took a while to grasp his concept. "Hell, honey, if I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to live in his trailer or anything just to get my head on straight," said the bartender, who had been listening in on the conversation. Perhaps this was just what I needed, but I felt like I'd stepped into the twilight zone. "Yes, I'll think about it and maybe check it out," I said to Ray. After a time, we broke up and planned to meet at his house in a few days. I began to feel as if I had some perspective and a chance to escape what I perceived to be a dreadful heartache paired with a nightmare. I knew one thing for certain: I never, ever wanted to spend time with my wife again. I find cheating abhorrent, and it has always been something I felt I would never tolerate. I sat on the couch when I got home that evening after Kathy. Kathy questioned where I'd been when she came out. "Where have you been?" I asked, turning to face her. "You know, I went to get drinks," she explained. I said directly, "Are you having an affair?" She seemed astonished, but she quickly composed herself and replied, "No, why would you ask me that?" I told her that I'd heard she might be seeing someone at work. "Who told you this?" she stated. "Someone I know," I said, keeping the name a secret. After repeating, "You're being ridiculous," she accused me of intoxication and insanity and inquired about my location. "We're going to a bar to enjoy some drinks with our friends," I said. Despite her obvious desire to ask more questions, she returned to our bedroom and retired to bed. Now that I had proof she had been fooling me for months, I decided to sleep on the couch. I couldn't sleep because I kept envisioning her in bed with this man. I felt bad about myself, disgusted, and hurt. But then I thought of Ray's trailer. The concept of that made me happy, and it was almost like a revelation. Something must be wrong with me since the fight or flight reaction activated immediately in the midst of my misery, and I chose the flight response. We didn't talk much the next morning and went on with our weekend as if nothing had happened. I set up a meeting with Ray a few days later. When I arrived, I realized that Ray had a beautiful ranch, and the trailer was fairly nice, about 26 feet long and well furnished. It reminded me of a fantastic spring break vacation I took with friends while in college. Ray accepted the money I gave for the trailer. To be honest, I nearly stole it from him. He gave me directions, so I drove over to inspect his ranch property. There were hiking and biking trails nearby, and the scenery was beautiful, with plenty of trees and scrub vegetation. Ray had a little cabin on a hilltop overlooking the property, with electricity and water available for the trailer, and it was at the foothills of some mountains. Ray offered to set up the trailer and transport it to the place. I tried to convince Kathy to come clean over the next few weeks, but all I got was gaslighting. I even told her outright that if I found out she was cheating, there would be no turning back. As a result, she became even more immersed in her affair fog, and began to deny my claims. I almost chuckled at how horrible the denial was. I chastised myself for failing to photograph the two of them, even though I had no real evidence that she had cheated. After experiencing such emotional suffering, I concluded that I wanted to leave this marriage. Instead of articulating my feelings to Kathy, I just started plotting. While she was at work, I quietly began collecting my belongings from the apartment and transferred them to the trailer. At the very least, I felt I was doing something about it. I saw a difference in Kathy during this time. Although she had been nicer to me, I felt it was too little. Too late. I thought I needed a break too, so she continued to go on company outings, after work. One night, I got ready right as she was leaving. After staring at me, she asked about my destination. All I said was, meeting up with some friends. You wouldn't enjoy all the shop talk, and you don't know them, I interrupted her as she continued to ask questions. She used to say exactly this to me whenever I asked if I might accompany her on office trips. All right, have a good time, she said with a somewhat annoyed expression. I definitely will, I said. I met new people while working on the trailer and hanging out with Ray at the bar. I felt better after spending time with Ray's lovely family and friends. I also decided to cut back on my drinking because I did not want to develop any bad habits. I knew better than to drown myself in sympathy, even though it would have been so easy. Kathy informed me that the following week she would be traveling for work. When I asked who was going, she said it was the executive team and a few department heads. I hope you have a great time with your boyfriend, I said, staring at her. I immediately regretted saying that, as it sparked a heated debate. Although Ray had told me that it didn't matter, I now regret not learning more about her affair partner, AP. It doesn't matter who the other guy is, Ray explained. The fact that she chose to leave you is all that matters. She destroyed the marriage. Whether she admits it or not, brother, facts are facts. Ray should write a book for the betrayed, damn it. During Kathy's work vacation, I had the perfect opportunity to move out completely. I gathered everything valuable that belonged to me, including clothes, laptops, and equipment, but I didn't take any shared goods or furniture. Before I left a note on the kitchen table that said, I hope it was worth it. I placed my wedding ring on top of the note. As I walked away, I felt as if a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The pain would take time to heal, and there would be baggage to deal with, but I had begun. I needed time to myself and to quickly and quietly get rid of her. The fact that I hadn't challenged her or coerced a confession didn't make me proud. I hadn't screamed or shouted. She didn't deserve it, in my opinion. She disregarded everything we owned, including our plans for the future, our aspirations, for I hadn't made any plans or contacted a lawyer. All I wanted was a fresh start and some clarity. When I arrived inside my trailer, the fresh air from the mountains was exactly what I needed. The following week, I resumed running, and it felt great to be alive. Kathy texted stuff like, we just landed, we're having a team dinner, and so on while she was gone. Where are you? Was the inquiry in a few emails. Why haven't you gotten back to me? I did not respond. When she got home, my phone exploded with calls and texts, and her mother tried to call me after the first day, but I didn't answer. She didn't try to contact my father because we're not close, and he's the only member of my family I still have. After being ignored for a week, her messages became more frantic. What is this? She texted. We must speak. I'm not sure what you believe you know, but nothing is happening. There isn't an affair going on. She finally texted me after a week of not responding, saying, I'm sorry things got out of hand. It didn't matter that I was connected with someone at work. You were frequently away while I was concerned with my work. I simply made a mistake and meant to end it. An error? I had been waiting for this confession all along, but strangely it only made me despise her more. Why was she unable to be truthful? I had no dreams of a future with this woman. Errors don't last for 6, 8, or a year. I refused to respond to her, even after she stopped bothering me for a few weeks, since I didn't want her to find out where I lived or pry about in my life, and I didn't want her to ruin my haven. She then began sending horrible texts like, "You're a coward," one day. "You refuse to speak to me. You have no regard for us. Come home, please, so that we can discuss. You're where I can visit you. Paul, please let's talk and make things right." Damn it. Although I don't recall all of the texts, they all seem to be excuses with little genuine regret, so I let them go in one ear and out the other. After a while, I changed my phone number. Update 1, Kathy sent me an email informing me that she had hired a lawyer and was going to file for divorce, and I just said, "Okay, that sounds good." This resulted in a barrage of emails requesting that I visit her and other things, and she wrote that she would stop bothering me if I agreed to an uncontested divorce after realizing that this would not work. After I agreed, I was truly free a few months later, and when I moved out of our apartment, I never had to see her again. She appeared to care more about it than I did, even though neither of us had any closure. I'd think of her every now and then for a few months, and the pain would suddenly hit me, like when I heard a song we used to like, but after a while, I simply stopped thinking about her. Update 2. Despite being a few years younger than me, she is fantastic and quite adorable, and she refers to me as her mountain man, and adores my way of life. Things are going great now that I'm officially divorced. In fact, I met a wonderful girl while running on the trail just down the hill from my house. Although I'm not in a hurry to commit, I also don't want to give up on women completely. I have no plans to leave the trailer anytime soon. I enjoy living outside and have simplified my life, which has made everything simpler for me, including my grief and my ex-wife. I am aware that everyone reacts to these situations in a unique way. I was fortunate to be in my 3rd year of marriage and not yet a parent, and I believe I acted in my own best interests. You don't have to spend your entire life with someone who cheats. If you experience something similar, try not to think about it too much. Continue living your life. As you improve yourself, it will get better. I wish everyone the best possible life. I've updated this about 5 times to make it more readable, and I just wanted to give you an update on my ex-wife's condition. As I mentioned in my previous post, I was concerned that my ex-wife was attempting to locate me. I had left our previous residence, which was about 2 hours away, and I ran into her last weekend at a coffee shop I frequented in a nearby town. It didn't seem like a coincidence to me, and I was able to flee before she noticed. Update 3. I drove into town this past weekend to grab groceries and made a stop at my usual coffee shop. I was using their free internet to work on some paperwork for work, which I finished and walked out of. I was on my way to my pickup when I heard someone call out, "Paul." When I turned to look across the street, I noticed Kathy waving at me. Finally, Armageddon arrived. She raced across the street toward me, and I stood there in shock. As if expecting an embrace, she walked over and extended her hand, but I stopped her in her tracks by reflexively extending out my arms with my palms up. She appeared to be in tremendous pain. Then she said, "I've been looking for you, Paul. I've wanted to see you since I learned you moved here. Could we have a conversation?" Guys, I felt like an animal locked in a cage. Yes, I did. "All right, let's find a table or something and we can talk for a minute," I eventually conceded. When she asked if we could come to my house, I said no. At the end of the block, she brought me to a bench outside a little business. She began by commenting on how much I had changed and how much she admired my new appearance, beard, and fitness level. She exclaimed at how much my body had transformed. She was wearing a tank top, little white shorts, and her hair in a ponytail, just like I used to like. I had my radar set to high. She was plainly trying to activate the sex appeal. I needed to restrain myself so I could see where this was going. She started by claiming she was sorry for the affair. She said that after I left, karma had a significant impact on her. When her boss learned about the affair, the situation grew so tense that she resigned. Her affair partner, AP, who was at the time engaged, was chastised and transferred to a different area within the organization. She responded by telling his fiancée the truth after he blamed her for everything, causing the couple to split up. This is when she bowed her head and started to cry. I didn't say anything. I simply sat there and gazed around. She stood up straight and gazed at me for a long time. "What do you want from me?" I inquired. She told me that she did not intend to have an affair. She claimed that the company's politics and posture pulled her in, and that her AP used his charm and authority to coerce her. She admitted that she thought she was exploiting him in the same way that he exploited her. After I accused her of cheating, she indicated that she planned to come clean. She drank after work to alleviate the guilt she felt at the time since she despised herself. She claimed she felt dumb, alone, and as if her heart had burst with loss right after I left. She discontinued her friendship with her AP immediately. She believed she needed to find me to see if there was any hope of reconciliation because I refused to communicate with her or contact her. She desired a fresh start. Despite the fact that she was aware of our divorce, she thought we might start over. I merely looked at her. I then handed it to her. You have no right to come out here and undo all the harm you have done. Do you think I'll overlook everything you did to destroy our union? As I previously stated, we were done if you cheated. Forgiveness does not exist. This relationship will not be restarted. You murdered it. As soon as you left me, you ruined everything we had. How foolish do you believe me to be? One evening, I saw you enter a hotel with him. Were you aware of this? I saw that my voice was becoming more audible, so I pushed her away after she grabbed my arm and began crying on my shoulder. I deserve all this, she replied, glancing up at me. I am certain that I do. If nothing else, would you allow me to take you out to dinner? I'd rather not go. I would like to speak further. I want to make sure that we are transparent about everything. You need to spend more time with me than you have in the past. Paul, please. I love you so much, even though I know you might not want to hear it. I had no idea how much I loved you before you left me. She began to sob violently and hyperventilate, so I took her up and hugged her, which seemed like the only way to calm her down. I realized then that I had crushed her heart as much as she had shattered mine. Walking, we found a nice location to continue our talk, and I said, "How did you discover me?" Once she had calmed down. "Have you hired a private investigator?" Kathy compelled Stacy to share all of the information after she asked how things were going when they ran into each other a few weeks before. Stacy didn't indicate that she had noticed me, so she responded with a tiny laugh. I had warned Stacy not to tell her, so she was hesitant, but Kathy persisted. Stacy eventually gave in, but all she knew was that I lived nearby and was in town. On her days off, she began to come here to check on me. I kind of laughed when she said that, thinking, damn, Stacy can't keep her trap shut. She blushed. We eventually decided to have dinner at a charming little spot with a patio. I made sure we didn't drink anything because I didn't want to give her a reason to be kind to me or say she wasn't so inebriated that she couldn't drive back. We had a good conversation, and I then escorted her to her vehicle. She insisted that she hadn't dated anyone else since I left, and she vowed fervently that I was the only person she wanted, so she pushed me hard to stay longer. No, it's still way too early for me to go down that road, I told her. My response to her request for my phone number was, "You'll just blow it up with texts and calls." She wept over it, but in the end, she agreed with my decision and promised to send me an email with information on returning to town the following weekend before she left. I questioned her bluntly. Would you have forgiven me if I had been the cheater? Before she got in her automobile. Yes, in time, but only if we saw a marriage counselor and worked through the healing process with lots of talking, maybe even a binding agreement, she said, pausing to think. Okay, maybe I can accomplish that, I replied, in 5 or 10 years. I would wait if that's what it would take, she said. She then took both of my hands in hers, looked me in the eye and added, "God damn it, Paul, I will always love you and will do anything to prove it." This comment threw me off guard. Even though I felt better about the situation, I couldn't see her as a friend at the time, and her words continued to irritate me even after she departed. I returned home, went for a long run, drank some beer, and reflected on how far I had come. Could someone please assure me that she would not destroy the peace I had created for myself? I had the luxury of time to sort through it and gain perspective, but it was all still too vivid in my mind. Last updated. Most likely, this will be my final update. When I first posted my tale on Reddit, the moderators kept taking it down. In summary, I ghosted my ex-wife for nearly a year before she discovered me. She wanted to make amends and restart our relationship. You will be very disappointed if you expected me to be the typical beta blue pill fool, and forgive her. In a lengthy email she sent me last week, she conveyed her love and regret for the affair, and she offered to come out and stay with me for the weekend again. My response was to quiet her. I informed her that I had no plans to make amends with her. I'm very content living alone, taking advantage of my secluded situation, and keeping things simple. At 32, I'm not in a hurry to make changes. I have my own self-determination plan and have enjoyed the company of a few women and friends. I made it clear in my email response that I had no intention of reconciling and declined to provide her with my phone number. I no longer know or trust you because you made your bed. I wish you the best, and perhaps we will become friends in the future, but not right now. She was angered by my evasiveness and answered in a telling way, acknowledging that she had accepted a job offer from another state. Her genuine desire had been for me to accompany her, assuming that my remote work would make the move easier. She wished we could start over somewhere fresh. She wanted to come see me in person to try to persuade me because she was running out of time before moving. Fortunately for me, her time was up because I had a week of business travel planned. I am grateful. I will no longer have her in my life. She will quickly realize that her time with me is gone, but I expect to receive a few more emails. She will need to find someone else, and she may even cheat on them. To everybody reading this, make the most of your life, let go of the past, and find the strength to move forward. Best wishes to everyone. My twin slept with my girlfriend got me kicked out at 17. Now my family wants me back. Because I'm in granddad's will. After 8 years of being abandoned, my family has welcomed me, my wife, 27 females, and my daughter, 1 female, to celebrate Christmas. After receiving contradictory advice from my pals, one of them advised me to publish my predicament here and see what random internet strangers would say. My mother, 52 female, and father, 54 male, have 4 children, and I, 25 male, am the youngest. My siblings are, false names, Michael, 31 male, Sarah, 28 female, and my twin brother Casey, 25 male. Growing up, I was the family's black sheep, and I was aware of this from an early age. My family is full of athletes. My father was a fantastic basketball player at a D2 school. My mother played volleyball. Michael played soccer. Sarah played softball. And Casey was a star running back on the football team. I was never particularly interested in any of those physical sports, preferring archery, which my family referred to as a wimpy sport. My parents were always more concerned with my siblings, and rarely attended my events, to the point where I had to beg them to attend my tournaments. Between the ages of 14 and 16, I participated in around 20 tournaments, while my parents only attended 1. They never neglected me, but they were never emotionally available to me in the same way that my siblings were. As a teenager, I despised that. When I tried to bring this up with them, they constantly called me an attention seeker. However, this was not the reason I was rejected by my family. When I was 15, I started dating Amy, now 25, a female, who was in the same grade as me. After about 6 to 7 months of dating, I introduced her to my parents and siblings, who absolutely liked her. I was young, but I could see a future with her. Almost 2 years later, one of Amy's ex-friends informed me that she had been cheating on me for several months. I had no idea who the guy was at the time, but when I confronted her, she revealed that he was my twin brother. She basically told me that she loved me at first, but her love for my brother outweighed that. Later that day, when I confronted Casey at home, I became upset and sucker punched him, knocking him out. I realized that I shouldn't have gotten aggressive, but years of hatred toward him and the rest of the family just erupted. In exchange for my family not filing charges against me, since I could have been prosecuted as an adult in court, I was transferred to live with my paternal aunt, 48 female, who was estranged from the family and resided in another city about 2 hours away. Since then, I have had no interaction with them. It was difficult at first, but with the help of my aunt and her husband, 48 male, I eventually went past my desire for a relationship with them. I transferred to a different high school, attended a university in my aunt's hometown, and graduated as an electrical engineer. I later met my wife and married her. I considered inviting them to my wedding, but decided against it because I didn't want any controversy. From there, my wife and I bought a house an hour away from my aunt and had a daughter a year ago. My mother and father sent me a Facebook message about a week ago, saying they wanted to reunite over Christmas at their place. I told them that I would think about it, that I could have other plans, but that I would get back to them as soon as possible. Later, both Michael and Sarah sent me friend invitations, which seemed strange to me. My wife has told me that if I opt to travel, she and my daughter would spend Christmas at my father-in-law's place so she does not have to deal with unnecessary stress, especially since she is 2 months pregnant, and I agree with her. My question to people reading this is, should I try to reconcile with my family, or not? I can't decide what to do. On the one hand, they may feel horrible about what they did to me and wish to apologize. However, if I go there, they may try to make me apologize to Casey, which I do not want to do. Any input would be beneficial. Update 1. Hello there, guys. It has been a difficult 2 weeks, but I appreciate everyone's counsel and support. This is going to be a very long post. I intended to post earlier, but several things got in the way. My wife began experiencing excruciating abdominal discomfort 2 days after Christmas, and she was unable to stand on her own 2 feet. My sister-in-law, 30 female, and I rushed her to the hospital, where we discovered that my wife had had a miscarriage, and that the fetus needed to be removed immediately. The worst part for me was telling my wife what had transpired. Due to problems with the operation, my wife was obliged to stay for 2 extra days. I've been trying to be strong for my wife and daughter, but I'm suffering right now. On to the update. Most of you who replied on the same day I posted advised me not to spend Christmas with them due to the significance of the day. I agreed and planned to spend the remainder of the holidays with my wife. They never had time for me, so why should I make time for them? When I texted them this, I expected them to quarrel with me, but they instead replied they respected my views and couldn't wait to see me after the holidays. I started investigating my family to discover why they had contacted me. Michael is a corporate lawyer with a major company in my hometown. Looking at his Facebook page, he has 2 daughters and married his wife in 2016. Sarah appears to have married a doctor. She was studying to be a nurse 8 years ago, and they now have a son together. I have a friend who lives in my hometown and has parents who are friendly with mine. When I asked her about Sarah, she informed me that she divorced her first husband, whom she had been dating for 8 years, after he committed mail fraud. Casey married Amy right after high school, and they had 2 children. I couldn't figure out what he or his wife do for a living on Facebook, but the fact that they bought a large house last year in the midst of a pandemic suggests they aren't truly hurting. My father appears to be experiencing a midlife crisis, and my mother is very active in the wellness community. I then proceeded to enumerate the possible reasons why they wanted to contact me right now. 1. Money. Unlikely, considering 8 years ago, my parents' combined earnings were greater than mine and my wife's. Given that my siblings are not hurting financially, I believe money is not the issue. 2. Organ donation. This could be the case, but it seems improbable. A Redditor suggested that Casey, being my twin, would be my most likely mate. I believe it is doubtful, however, given he was tagged in a Facebook post skiing just a week before Christmas. 3. Regarding my daughter. They could be contacting me to establish a bond with my daughter, but I'm not certain. My daughter is not my parents' first granddaughter, so I'm not sure why they want to meet her. They most likely found out about my daughter because my wife's Facebook account was public. She has since privatized her account. I immediately contacted my aunt, the estranged one who took me in, and informed her of the situation. She explained why they had reached out to me after all this time. To comprehend the circumstances, you must first understand why my aunt was estranged. My paternal grandparents, 79 male and 76 female, had 4 children. My father was the second oldest, while my aunt was the third. After graduation, my aunt came out to her parents as bisexual and started dating her partner. My grandparents promptly rejected her and refused to contact her. However, roughly 4 years ago, my grandfather started to seek out. About a month ago, my grandfather inquired about me, what I was doing in life, and whether I was married or had children. My aunt chastised my grandfather for wanting to know about me after he defended Casey's actions. That's when the entire thing changed. My grandfather informed my aunt that because I had cheated on Amy with one of her close friends, I deserved to be alienated. My grandfather is a devout religious man who despises cheating. My family had told him that when the buddy with whom I supposedly cheated confessed to Amy, she turned to Casey and Sarah for support and consolation. When I learned about this, I confronted and viciously attacked Casey and Sarah. Sarah was the one who tried to tear me and Casey apart. But I never touched her. And I did not brutally attack Casey. When my aunt told me this, my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe they despised me so much that they were willing to fabricate a horrible falsehood about me and disseminate it. My aunt later informed my grandfather the complete truth about what had happened. She told me he was startled since he had always felt Casey was a good kid. My grandfather then asked my aunt for my phone number, which she declined. I understood why my parents and siblings wanted to contact me. My grandfather had told my parents and siblings that if they did not apologize to me and invite me to the family Christmas meal, they would be cut out of his will. For reference, he is a multi-millionaire. So that is why they contacted me. not to repent for how they had all wronged me in the past, but because if they didn't, they would not receive anything from grandfather. What a greedy group of individuals. After learning about it from my aunt, I decided to block them all. Why should I respond to them at this stage? They're all dead to me. I have a wife to support after what she has gone through, as well as a family who respects me, including my in-laws. However, this is not the end. 3 days after New Year's Eve, I got a call from an unknown number on my work phone. Because of my job, I am accustomed to receiving calls from unknown numbers, and when I answered the phone, I heard my grandfather's voice. He most certainly got my number from my company's website. He apologized for not contacting me for the past 8 years. He apologized for being unable to attend significant events like my graduation, wedding, and daughter's birth. I wasn't really close to him previously, so his cutting me off didn't hurt me. Later in the call, he informed me that he was so upset with the rest of my family that he was removing them from his will and adding me to it. I honestly don't know how to feel about it. The money would be helpful, but I don't want him to use it to force a relationship with my kid. We talked for nearly a half hour. The way the call went made me believe that I could develop a good relationship with my grandfather. But then he said something that truly pissed me off. He expressed disappointment that my daughter had not taken the family name. For context, once I married my wife, the question of what last name to use as a pair arose. For legal reasons, I was unable to change my last name to my wife's last name. But we agreed as a couple that all of our future children would have her surname. At this time, I unloaded on my grandfather. I called him a senile old guy and other harsh things, and I told him never to contact me again. The hubris of this man to say that, after everything I've been through, is something I will not tolerate. He will not use the money from the will to dominate me. Even if I receive the money, I plan to donate it to a local charity. However, given his history of making false promises, this is improbable. These last 2 weeks have been really difficult for me, and I am determined to get through them. My wife has made her Facebook account private, and her in-laws have done the same. I have no idea what they do to try to reach me. Hell, they'd probably pay a private investigator to find me. I think they don't know where I live, but you never know. I've considered getting a restraining order, but because there are lawyers in the family, getting one will be difficult. I didn't have much time to answer any of the questions in my previous post. I'll try my best to answer any inquiries during the next day or two, but after that, I'm done with Reddit for a while. Thank you all for your suggestions, and best wishes for the new year. That concludes the first story. Now let us start with the second one. My ex-girlfriend abandoned me and our daughter for another guy 10 years ago, but she's returned, eager to be a family again after contracting COVID, and realizing she has no one left in her life. My narrative began 16 years ago, when I met Lucy. She was an outstanding girl, intelligent, gorgeous, and funny. The best female I ever met. I felt quite fortunate when we began dating, and after a year, we had a baby. I was living the dream, living with my fiancé, raising our young kid, and having a happy family. I adored Lucy, and after several years, we were finally getting married. Our daughter was the most excited about the wedding since she was going to be a flower girl. Everything seemed wonderful until one day, while I was on my way home, a guy approached me and asked to speak with me. At first, I thought he was trying to sell me something, until he said Lucy. He politely invited me to speak in a private setting. He then requested me to pause everything concerning the wedding, and stand aside since he and Lucy desired to be together. I didn't trust him until he started telling me things about her that I couldn't possibly know. I got home as quickly as I could. I didn't want this to be real, so I told her about it, hoping everything was a mistake. But it wasn't. For the following hour, she told me everything. She'd been cheating on me for the last 2 years. She told me that every time she said she loved me, wanted us to be together, or loved our family, she was lying. How her new boyfriend was younger, stronger, more attractive, and a better lover. She stated that she did not want to be connected to me. She lost her freedom as a mother and did not want to be married. She wanted her freedom back. The final sting came when she said she was glad I finally knew, and that she could now leave. I cried, begged, humiliated myself, and got down on my knees, pleading for another chance to attempt to repair our relationship. But she did not want it. She craved the thrill and excitement that this new guy exuded. The next day, she had left us. I felt shattered, humiliated, and emasculated. But my daughter needs me. She was heartbroken. Her mother had departed, and she felt it was her fault. She heard Lucy say she no longer wanted to be a mother. She needed me, and I had to be strong for her. Fortunately, we had help. My family, as well as Lucy's family, were quite supportive. Her parents were so ashamed of their daughter's behavior that they couldn't approach me without apologizing for everything she did. I will never be able to repay everyone for their assistance. Fast forward 10 years, and after much time and therapy, my daughter and I are happy. She is the light of my life, a stunning 15-year-old lady whom I adore. Our wounds have healed, and we enjoy a really pleasant existence. But then she returned. When my daughter and I returned home, Lucy was waiting for us outside our apartment, eager to talk. I recognized her right away, and I'd like to say I did something great, like ignore her, ask her to leave, or be rude to her, but no. I am an idiot. My heart skipped a beat as soon as I saw her. She was still as gorgeous as before, but she appeared even better. Perhaps age made her appear mature and elegant. Maybe the clothing or the makeup. I'm not sure. But I allowed her in. While our daughter gave us some space and went to her room, she told me all she had done since leaving. Basically, she lived with that person for several years. She expressed how much she appreciated it, how much fun she had, and how she thought those were the best years of her life. Until she realized that the joy of her new connection was fading. She eventually started cheating on that person as well. She said she wanted to feel alive and excited. Eventually the relationship ended, and she began dating other men. Every relationship lasted less than the one before it, until she was only having casual hookups. She also mentioned that she sometimes thinks about us, our family. She claimed she was too proud to confess she had made a mistake until last year, when she contracted COVID. It hit her so hard that she thought she'd die and understood how alone she was. How dumb she had been. She committed a mistake so long ago. After all of that, she said that she regretted what she had done and stated, and now she was ready to marry me, and be the family we always meant to be. When she was done, I asked her to leave so I could ponder. She agreed, stating she'd be back the next day. For years, I wished she would return. And now it was occurring. But it didn't feel right. Since then, she has paid us practically daily visits, eager to discuss the best years of our relationship, and how we may reunite as a happy family. I begged for support from my family and friends. Most of them told me that if I took her back, I would be making the worst mistake of my life. Others suggested that I give her a chance. It took me a long time to heal, and even longer to begin forming new relationships. And I would risk everything. My daughter and I had a long discussion about it one night. I strive to involve her in every aspect of our lives, and this problem is very important to her. Because it is about her mother. Sometimes she shocks me with her wisdom and maturity, as she informed me, "Can you truly love someone who has damaged us so much?" And that's all I needed. I would never forgive myself if I allowed her to injure my daughter again. I stated it to Lucy. If she wants to be around or have a relationship with our daughter, I'm fine with that. But only if she wants it. But I told her we wouldn't be back. Lucy just stated that she would make me fall in love with her again, and that she would not give up. Update 2. I didn't expect so many responses, so thank you to everyone for your feedback and advice. Thank you to those that opened my eyes and helped me recognize that I still have issues with my ex, and am not over her. Overall, I'm grateful to those who warned me about the dangers of reintroducing my daughter into our lives. I recognize my flaws, but I will not allow her to injure my baby again. So, don't worry, I'm not getting back to her. She had insisted on meeting ever since the post. She wanted to talk. I decided to have one last conversation with her and set my boundaries. We met in a public space. The conversation was long and difficult. I wanted her to be honest, so I informed her that if I caught her telling a lie, I would leave. I questioned if she was truly sorry, or if we were her only alternative. Did she truly love us, or were we simply a consolation prize? Did she come back for love, or because she couldn't find another man? She couldn't answer any of the questions. She only said stuff like this. "It is not like that. You have to comprehend me. I am not like this anymore." She insisted on giving her another chance, that we could love and be together again. She never addressed our daughter at any point. Only when I brought it out did she begin to mention her. When I tried to settle that we were over, she grabbed my hand and, as some of you warned me she would do, tried to seduce me, pulling down her top, displaying me her cleavage and saying, "We can locate a place, and I'll do whatever you want with you. I will not turn down anything, to pay you." I didn't recognize the woman. She was not the amazing girl I had met. She was not the mother of my daughter. I had no idea who that woman was. But she wasn't my Lucy. I told her to let me go. That we were done. Please leave me and my kid alone. None of us wanted anything to do with her. We had a lovely life without her. She suddenly became enraged, stating I couldn't leave her. That was not my choice. That she had nothing else. That I couldn't take her daughter. I'm still not sure why, but the last statement triggered me. The following are not my exact words, but they are close to what I stated in that moment. Your daughter? Your daughter? You aren't her mother. You merely gave birth to her. You are not her mother. Tell me, where were you while she was sick? Where were you when she ran a fever? When did she feel terrified at night? When did her first tooth fall out? When did she cry at night because she missed her mother? Were you there on her first day of school? When did she get her first period? When did she have her first boyfriend? When her heart broke for the second time, because her mother had already broken it? What dick were you riding when she needed a mother? You have no right to pretend to be her mother, because you have never acted that way. She attempted to respond, but I could see that she was unable to find the words. I left her. Back at home she texted me, asking for another encounter and another chance. She stated that she loves me and is open to change. But I am done. You, everyone, were correct. She doesn't love me or our daughter. She simply loves herself. Having her in my life would be negative, toxic. I don't need that. I do not need her. My daughter and I are returning to therapy soon. Some of you were correct. I need to concentrate on myself, become stronger, and overcome my feelings for her. Because they are not real. Just a memory of who I imagined she was. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one.